Black woman arrives to clean a luxury mansion only to find her childhood crush is now a millionaire. So happy you are here. Right now, we have few subscribers on this channel, and each one of you is so special to me. Thank you for watching these stories. Before we start our story, I want to say a quick prayer for all of you. Dear God, please bless everyone listening. Help them make good choices. Give them strength when things are hard and fill their hearts with peace. Let them enjoy the little happy things in life and be brave to follow what matters most. Please protect their families, show them the right path, and let love lead everything they do. Amen. Now let's start. Celeste Warren looked at her watch and let out a big sigh. The morning bus was late again. That meant she would have to hurry to get to her first cleaning job on time. Celeste was 35 years old, and she had hoped life would be easier by now. But she was still counting every dollar, still worried about being late, and still wearing the same shoes she bought 3 years ago. "Good morning, Nessa," called Mrs. Mabel from the corner bakery as Celeste walked quickly past. "Running late again?" "The bus didn't come," Nessa answered with a small smile. "Save me a cinnamon roll for later." The bus finally came, and Nessa squeezed into one of the last seats. She looked at her phone and checked her schedule. She had 4 houses to clean today, and a new house at 4 p.m. Her boss didn't say much about the new one, only that it was very important and she should be extra careful. By the time Nessa finished cleaning the 4th house, her back was hurting. She sat on the front step and called her Raina. "Hey, Raina, just checking in. Did you remember to take your lunch today?" "Yes, Aunt Nessa," said 16-year-old Raina, sounding like she had heard that question many times. "And yes, I'll start my homework before you get home." "That's my girl," Nessa said with a smile. "I've got one more house today, some fancy place on Memory Lane. I might be home a little late." "The mansions?" Raina asked, now curious. "Like where all the rich people live?" "Apparently. Don't get too excited. I'm just cleaning it, not buying it." Nessa hung up and checked the address again. Just hearing the name Memory Lane made her stomach feel tight. She hadn't been there in years, not since high school. Back then, rich kids had big parties in their parents' houses while kids like Nessa worked in diners on weekends. Her old car made funny noises as it climbed up the hill to the rich part of town. "Just a little more," she whispered, patting the dashboard. "Please don't stop now." The houses got bigger as she drove. Their lawns were perfect, and the driveways were round and shiny. Finally, she turned onto Memory Lane and drove to the end where a huge iron gate stood open. Behind it was a big mansion made of stone and glass. It was 3 stories high and had large windows that sparkled in the sun. It looked like a house in a magazine. Nessa parked her car, grabbed her cleaning things, and walked to the front door. She took a deep breath and told herself it was just another job. Rich people were just like everyone else. They only had bigger houses to clean. She rang the doorbell. No answer. She rang it again and waited nervously. Then the big door opened and Nessa saw a face from long ago. Jackson Vale. He looked different now. His face was sharper with a neat beard and small lines near his eyes. But it was still him, the boy who made her high school years hard, the one she used to have a secret crush on. "I'm from Spotless Cleaning Services," Nessa said quickly, hoping he wouldn't know who she was. "I'm here for the 4 o'clock job." Jackson stared at her, then his eyes got wide. "Nessa Warren?" he said slowly. "You still wrinkle your nose when you're annoyed." Nessa felt her heart drop. Of all the houses in the city, why did it have to be his? "I should go," she said, already turning away. "I'll have someone else come." "Wait," Jackson said, sounding less sure of himself now. "Please don't go." Nessa stopped but didn't turn around. "Why? So you can remind me of all the fun times you had making fun of me in high school?" "No, thanks." "I'll pay you 3 times the normal rate," he said quickly. "I just want the house cleaned. That's all." Nessa turned around slowly. 3 times the pay? That could help her fix her car and even save for Raina's college. "Fine," she said, coldly. Where do you want me to start? Jackson stepped back to let her in. The inside of the mansion was very big and clean. The furniture looked expensive, but the rooms had no photos or decorations. It felt empty. Kitchen and living room first, Jackson said, walking through the giant hallway. I'll be working upstairs. Just do your usual stuff. Nessa nodded and started unpacking her cleaning tools. When Jackson went upstairs, she let out a long breath. How is this even happening? She whispered. Jackson Vale, the boy who used to call her Library Mouse because she liked books, the boy who made her cry in the school bathroom. Now he lived in a huge house and was rich, and she was still struggling to pay bills. She started scrubbing the kitchen harder than usual. She wiped every counter until it sparkled. After a few hours, the house was clean, but it still felt like no one really lived there. The kitchen didn't seem used. The living room had no warmth. When she cleaned the bookshelves in the study, something caught her eye. One shelf was full of magazines and newspapers. All of them had Jackson's photo on the cover. Tech genius changes the world. Jackson Vale's new software is amazing, from college dropout to millionaire. So that's what happened. Jackson had become a tech superstar. Find anything interesting? Nessa jumped. Jackson was standing behind her. She hadn't heard him come in. Sorry, she said. I was just dusting. It's okay, he said, leaning on the doorframe. My parents collect those magazines. You don't live here with them? She asked before she could stop herself. No, just me, he said, looking around. It's a big house for one person, I know. It got quiet again. Nessa kept dusting, but she felt Jackson watching her. You disappeared after graduation, he said. I heard you got a scholarship. I did. For a while, she answered. What happened? Nessa looked at him. Life happened. My sister got sick. I had to take care of Raina. She shrugged. Not everyone gets to follow their dreams. Raina is your Raina? He asked gently. Yes, she's 16 now, smart like her aunt, he said with a small smile. Nessa wasn't sure what to say. This Jackson seemed different, not full of jokes, but calm and almost kind. I should finish up, she said and walked to the hallway. I still have the sunroom to clean. The sunroom was at the back. It was full of glass, with sunlight and plants everywhere. It was the only room that felt cozy. There was a soft chair and some books on the table. As Nessa cleaned, she saw a cardboard box under the table. She moved it to vacuum, and the top fell open. Inside were old yearbooks. She knew she shouldn't look, but she saw the name of their school and got curious. She opened the book from their last year. So many memories came back. She saw the lunchroom where she sat alone, the library where she hid, and classrooms where she never raised her hand. Then she found her own photo. There was a circle around it and a note. Always smarter than me. Nessa blinked. She flipped more pages and saw more notes. Best writer in class. Never gets the credit she deserves. Just then she heard footsteps. I made tea, Jackson said, holding 2 cups. You liked Earl Grey in English class, right? Nessa took the tea, too surprised to say no. You remember that? I remember a lot, Jackson said, sitting down and motioning for her to join. She sat slowly. I also remember how mean I was to you, he said, looking into his tea. I wasn't teasing because I didn't like you. I was scared. I was 15 and dumb. You were so smart and quiet and strong. And I was trying to be funny so people wouldn't see I was afraid of failing. The sun was setting. Outside, the sky turned gold. Why are you telling me this? Nessa asked softly. Because I never got to say sorry, Jackson said. And today, when you showed up, it felt like a second chance. Nessa stood up. She felt strange. I should go. Raina's waiting for dinner. Jackson didn't stop her. He walked her to the door. Will you come back next week? He asked. For cleaning, I mean. Nessa didn't know what to say. Her heart told her to run, but her mind knew that extra money would help her and Raina a lot. Same time next week, she said, but just for cleaning. Nothing else? Jackson asked, a small smile on his face. Nothing else, Nessa said. As she drove away, Nessa's thoughts were all over the place. The yearbook with her picture circled, the tea he remembered, the apology she never thought she'd hear. 15 minutes later, she pulled into the driveway of the small house she shared with Raina. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. Inside, Raina was at the table with her books. So? Raina asked excitedly. How was the mansion? Did they have a pool? Nessa put down her bag and leaned against the counter, still thinking about the strange day. It was unexpected, she said finally. And yes, they had a pool, and the person who lives there is someone I knew a long time ago. Like an old friend? Raina asked, twirling her pencil. Friend isn't the word I'd use, Nessa said. But he's not really an enemy anymore either, just someone from high school. It's no big deal. As Nessa started making dinner, she couldn't stop thinking about Jackson. She kept seeing him sitting in that bright room, looking at her with kind eyes. It felt like he remembered everything. Things Nessa wanted to forget and even things she never knew. The next week went by fast. Nessa did normal things like visiting houses, buying groceries, and helping Raina with her science homework. She tried not to think about Jackson or his big house at the end of memory lane. But her mind always went back to the yearbooks and the little notes she had found. You seem distracted, said Sandra, Nessa's boss at the cleaning job, when Nessa dropped a bottle of cleaning spray. Is something bothering you? No, Nessa said quickly. I'm just tired. Sandra raised one eyebrow but didn't say anything else. Well, that man, Mr. Kalin, called. He wants you to come back tomorrow. He said you did a great job. Nessa nodded and ignored the smile Sandra gave her. It's just a job, she said out loud. But on Thursday afternoon, when she drove back to the big mansion, Nessa felt nervous butterflies in her belly. She told herself it was only because she was remembering the past. That was all. This time, Jackson opened the door right away like he had been waiting for her. He was wearing jeans and a blue sweater. The sweater made his eyes look even more blue. Hi, he said with a soft smile. He stepped back so she could come in. Thanks for coming back. Nessa nodded and stayed professional. Where would you like me to start today? Anywhere you want, Jackson said. A repairman is coming to fix something in the basement, so I'll be down there if you need me. Nessa felt glad to have some space. She started cleaning the main floor. Things looked a little different now. There were fresh flowers in the living room and a half-read book on the coffee table. It looked like someone was finally living in the house, not just staying in it. When she finished the downstairs, Nessa went upstairs. There were 6 bedrooms, but only one looked like it was being used. Jackson's room was simple. It had a big bed with dark blue blankets, a nightstand with books, and a desk with a laptop. There was no TV or fancy stuff, even though Jackson worked in tech. As Nessa dusted the nightstand, she saw a book she knew, To Kill a Mockingbird. She picked it up. She remembered it from high school. Inside the cover, someone had written in faded pencil, Nessa said Scout reminds her of someone real. Look for the truth in fiction. Nessa was still holding the book when Jackson came to the door. Sorry, she said, putting the book back. I wasn't snooping. It's okay, he said. It's a good book. It was my favorite in high school, Nessa said. I know, Jackson replied with a smile. You gave a class talk about it that made Mrs. Wilson cry. Nessa blinked. You remember that? Like I said, he said. I remember a lot of things. He waited a moment and then asked, Are you hungry? I ordered sandwiches from the deli downtown. Nessa wanted to say no to keep things professional, but her tummy made a loud growling sound. Jackson laughed. I'll take that as a yes. Come on, they're downstairs. Nessa followed him to the kitchen. On the counter was a brown paper bag. Jackson took out 2 sandwiches. He gave one to her. Turkey on wheat, no mayo, extra tomato, he said. Still your favorite? Nessa looked at the sandwich and then at him. How do you know that? He smiled and unwrapped his sandwich. You used to give me your mayo and take my tomato slices in school. Some things you don't forget. They ate quietly for a while. Nessa tried to stay quiet and professional, but she felt relaxed. So, Jackson said. Tell me about Raina. You said she's 16. Nessa nodded. Yes, some days she acts like she's 30. She's smart and stubborn, she's already thinking about college, but we don't have the money for it. What does she want to study? He asked. Computer science, Nessa said with a small smile. She loves coding. She taught herself from YouTube because we can't pay for fancy classes. Jackson's eyes lit up. That's amazing. Has she tried the new Python course online? I can send you the link. Before Nessa knew it, she was having a real conversation with Jackson about Raina's dreams. It felt strange but also nice. What about you? Jackson asked. Do you like cleaning houses, or is it just for money? Nessa stopped smiling. Not everyone gets to chase their dreams, Jackson. Some of us just do what we have to do. He looked down at his empty sandwich wrapper. I didn't mean it like that. I remember you liked writing. You were really good. That was a long time ago, Nessa said, standing up to clean up the wrappers. I should get back to work. As Nessa cleaned the rest of the upstairs, she tried to stop thinking about how easy it was to talk to Jackson. He remembered little things about her, even things she had forgotten. But that didn't mean anything. People like Jackson Kalin didn't change in 20 years. When she came back downstairs with her cleaning things, Jackson was waiting by the door. Same time next week? He asked. Nessa nodded. That's the schedule. Great, he said. Then he picked up a small paper bag from the table. This is for Raina, some coding books I thought she might like. Nessa looked at the bag but didn't take it. We don't need charity. It's not charity, Jackson said quickly. It's an apology for being a jerk back then. Please take it. After a pause, Nessa took the bag. Thank you, I'm sure she'll like them. That night after dinner, Nessa gave the bag to Raina. These are from the man whose house I clean. He works in tech and thought you might enjoy these. Raina's eyes went wide. She pulled out 3 big books about coding and a brand new flash drive. Whoa, these are like $50 each, she said. Why would he give them to me? He said he wanted to say sorry for something, Nessa said, not giving details. It's not a big deal, but it was a big deal. They couldn't afford things like this often. What's his name? Raina asked, reading a sticky note. Jackson Kalin, Nessa said. Raina gasped. Wait, the Jackson Kalin? The guy who made Secure Sync? He's super famous in tech. We just learned about his company in school. Nessa felt a little sad. Of course, Jackson wasn't just successful. He was famous, and she was still just trying to pay bills. In the next few weeks, Nessa kept coming to the mansion. Jackson always found a reason to be home when she came. Sometimes he worked on his laptop in the same room. Sometimes he offered her tea or lunch. He always asked about Raina. He always left something for her. More books, course codes, even a small laptop. I can't keep accepting these, Nessa told him after the laptop. It's too much. She deserves to have the tools to follow her dreams, Jackson said. Think of it as a gift to someone who might be my future teammate in tech. Even though Nessa wasn't sure, she couldn't ignore how happy Raina was. Her Raina stayed up late coding and was so excited about learning. One rainy day in late October, Nessa came to the house and saw Jackson trying to fix a leaking faucet. Shouldn't you call a plumber? She asked. Probably, he said, laughing, but I'm trying to learn. Here, Nessa said, let me help. Together they stopped the leak. Nessa noticed Jackson seemed so different from the boy she remembered. He didn't seem rich or proud, just real. Why do you live in this big house all alone? She asked. Jackson looked serious. I bought it to prove I could, to show people I'd made it, but now it just feels empty. Then why stay? She asked. Where else would I go? At least here, nobody wants something from me. Nessa looked at him. Is that what happens? People want things from you? Jackson nodded. Money, help with their projects. When you have money, it's hard to know if people really like you or just what you can give. For the first time, Nessa saw his sadness. Maybe they weren't so different after all. When she finished cleaning, Jackson was waiting by the door. I have a business dinner tomorrow night, he said shyly. There'll be some investors. I was wondering, would you come with me? Nessa blinked. Like, a date? No, not a date, Jackson said quickly. It's easier with someone real there. Someone who's not trying to get anything from me. Nessa wanted to say no. This felt like too much. But Jackson added, you could bring Raina too. There's a tech demo before the dinner. She might like it. Nessa saw the hopeful look in his eyes. Before she could stop herself, she nodded. Okay, but it's not a date, she said, and we're not staying late. Jackson smiled, but this smile was different from the one he had in high school. It wasn't a silly or teasing smile. It was real and happy, almost like a little boy's smile. I'll pick you up at 6th, he said. Thank you, Jackson, Nessa said. As Nessa drove home, she felt a funny flutter in her stomach. It wasn't a date, she told herself. It was just a kind favor from someone who had been nice to her. Raina, that's all. But when Nessa told Raina about the dinner, Raina got very excited. Oh my gosh, Raina shouted, jumping on her bed. We're going to dinner with Jackson Vale. The real Jackson Vale. This is so cool. What are you going to wear? It's not a big deal, Nessa said. And it's not a date. Sure it's not, Raina said with a big smile. That's why you're blushing. I am not blushing, Nessa said quickly, but her cheeks turned warm. It's just a business thing, she explained. He needs normal people there so he doesn't get bored with all those rich investors. But that night, as Nessa stood in front of her closet and looked at her clothes, she felt nervous. For the first time in many years, she cared about what she wore, and she wondered what Jackson would think when he saw her. That scared her more than anything. At exactly 6, a shiny black car stopped in front of Nessa's little house. Raina, who had been watching from the window for 20 minutes, shouted, "He's here, and it's a Tesla!" Nessa looked at herself in the mirror one last time. She wore her nicest dress, a dark blue one she bought for her cousin's wedding 2 years ago. Her hair was tied back in a bun, and she even wore a little makeup. She looked nice, not too fancy, just nice. Aunt Nessa, hurry! Raina called. Nessa took a deep breath, grabbed her purse, and went to the door. Raina looked adorable in her best jeans and a borrowed blouse. She was bouncing with excitement. Jackson stood by the car. He didn't look like the guy who once tried to fix leaky faucets. He looked like a real businessman in a sharp gray suit and a light blue tie. When he saw them, his face lit up. You both look amazing, he said, opening the car door. Thank you for coming. The ride to the hotel was full of Raina's happy questions about Jackson's company and cool tech things. Nessa sat quietly, listening to Jackson answer. He never talked down to Raina. He answered like she was smart and important. So what's happening tonight? Nessa finally asked. We're doing a tech demonstration, Jackson said, handing his car keys to a man. Then we'll have dinner with some important guests. I'll show off our new computer security stuff and try to get some rich people to invest money. Will there be other people like us? Nessa asked, feeling a little worried. Jackson held her hand gently and gave a warm smile. There are no people like you two, he said kindly. But yes, there will be other guests, friends, family. You won't be the only ones who aren't tech experts. The hotel ballroom was already half full. Men in fancy suits and women in shiny dresses stood in small groups, talking and holding drinks. Nessa felt out of place, but Raina didn't. Her eyes were wide with wonder. A thin man with glasses walked up to them quickly. Mr. Vale, he said, we were wondering when you'd arrive. The Henderson Group really wants to talk to you. James, Jackson said politely, I want you to meet my guests. This is Celeste Warren and her Raina. James barely looked at them before saying, The demo starts in 15 minutes. Do you need more time? No, 15 minutes is fine, Jackson said. Then he looked at Raina. Would you like to see the tech setup? James took Raina to a corner of the room filled with computers and screens. Jackson turned to Nessa and gave her a small smile. Sorry about that. When I'm at work, I get into business mode, he said. It's fine, Nessa replied, feeling shy. This is your world. It's not my world, Jackson said. It's just my job. He offered his arm. Come on, I'll introduce you to some nice people. The next hour went by quickly. Nessa met many of Jackson's friends and coworkers. She especially liked a woman named Diana, who ran a computer class for poor kids. Jackson is one of our biggest helpers, Diana said. He gives money, but he also comes to work with the kids. They love him. Nessa looked across the room. Jackson was talking to an older man. She was surprised. I didn't know he did that kind of thing, she said. He doesn't talk about it, Diana said with a smile. But he's there every Tuesday. Just then, the lights dimmed, and a spotlight shone on a small stage. Jackson walked up and took the microphone. Now he looked different, strong, sure, and ready. Thank you for coming, he said. At SecureSync, we believe everyone deserves digital safety, not just the rich. Nessa listened carefully. Jackson really cared. This wasn't just about business. He wanted to protect people. Raina came back to Nessa, her eyes shining. He's amazing. I saw how the system works. After the talk, dinner was served. Waiters brought many fancy dishes. Nessa sat between Jackson and Diana, with Raina across from them, still chatting with a young engineer. You've really impressed my Raina, Nessa told Jackson softly. She's impressive, Jackson said. That engineer wants her to join as an intern one day. She's very smart. Nessa felt proud. She works hard. Like her aunt, Jackson added, looking at Nessa. Nessa looked away quickly. Her heart beat faster. This was getting a little scary. She couldn't forget who they were. He was rich. She cleaned houses. Just then, a fancy woman walked up to their table. She smiled at Jackson and put her hand on his shoulder. Jackson, darling, she said sweetly. I thought that was you. Jackson didn't look happy. Sienna, I didn't know you were in town. Just for the conference, she said, looking at Nessa with a cool smile. Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend? This is Celeste Warren and her Raina, Jackson said stiffly. Sienna Drake, a former co-worker. Co-worker, Sienna repeated with a smirk. How polite. We were more than that. Work and fun. You know how it is. Nessa felt her face get hot. Nice to meet you, she said, trying to stay calm. Sienna whispered something to Jackson, then walked away with a sly smile. Things suddenly felt quiet and awkward. I think it's time to go, Nessa said, picking up her purse. Raina has school tomorrow. Jackson nodded. Of course. I'll drive you. The ride home was quiet. Raina fell asleep in the back seat, tired after the big night. No one talked much. When they got to Nessa's house, Jackson looked at her. I'm sorry about Sienna. She's from a world I don't like much. You don't have to explain, Nessa said. We're not anything to each other. Aren't we? Jackson asked softly. I thought we were becoming friends. Nessa looked at her small house, then at Jackson in his fancy suit and car. People like us don't become friends, she said. We're too different. Different how? Jackson asked. Because I have money and you don't? That's just stuff, Nessa. It's not who we are. That's easy for you to say, Nessa said. You don't scrub toilets to pay rent. She felt bad as soon as she said it. Jackson looked hurt. I never thought of you like that, he said sadly. Never. I know. I'm sorry, Nessa said. Tonight felt like a world I don't belong in. Maybe it's a world you deserve more than the others, Jackson said. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small flash drive. I got something for you, he said. It's just a little writing program I thought you'd like. Nessa took the drive, confused. What's this? When we were in high school, Jackson said gently, you wrote a story for Mr. Sienna's class. It was about a girl who wanted to be invisible because being seen hurt too much. Nessa gasped. You still have that? I found it in an old folder, Jackson said. It was beautiful, Nessa. It made me understand things I didn't get back then. They sat in silence for a moment. Thank you, Nessa said quietly, holding the drive. For tonight, for Raina, for remembering. Jackson moved his hand toward hers, then stopped. I'll see you next Thursday for cleaning. Nessa nodded. Same time. The next morning, after Raina went to school, Nessa sat down with her old laptop. She plugged in the flash drive that Jackson had given her. There, she saw the writing program he talked about. It was a fancy and expensive program, something Nessa never could have bought herself. Then she saw another folder. Inside was a story she had written in high school. As she started reading the words she had typed nearly 20 years ago, tears came to her eyes. The story wasn't perfect, but it was real and full of feelings. It was about a girl who felt safer when no one noticed her, because being noticed sometimes meant being hurt. At the very end of the story, there was a note from Jackson. It said, "This story changed me, though I was too young and silly to say it back then. You saw things others didn't. You still do. I'm sorry I was one of the people who made it hard for you to be seen. I hope one day I can be someone who makes it worth it." Nessa closed the laptop, her heart full of thoughts. For years, she believed Jackson was just a rich boy who once made her feel small. It was easier to think of him that way. But now, she wasn't so sure. The man she was getting to know felt different, more kind and more real. That afternoon, Sandra from the cleaning company called her. "Just checking on how things are going at the Vale house," Sandra said. "It's fine," Nessa answered, trying to sound normal. "Why do you ask?" Sandra waited a second, then said, "Well, I heard people talking about you being at that fancy dinner with him last night." Nessa's stomach dropped. "It wasn't like that. He just invited us because Raina likes tech stuff." Sandra said in a way that didn't sound very believing. "Look, I'm not judging, but you know how this town is. Cleaning clients expect you to keep things professional. Are you taking me off the job?" Nessa asked, feeling nervous. "Not yet," Sandra said, "but maybe you should cool things down. Just be careful. Rich men like Jackson Vale usually don't stay with girls like us. They just have some fun and then move on." After the call, Nessa sat at her kitchen table. Sandra's words kept echoing in her mind. Was Jackson just playing around with her? But then she thought about the books he gave Raina, the writing software, the story he kept for 20 years, the yearbook pictures he circled, and how he remembered how she liked her tea. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. A delivery man was there holding a small box. "Celeste Warren?" he asked. "Sign here, please." Inside the box was a beautiful book, To Kill a Mockingbird, with a shiny hard cover. There was a note inside, "To remind you that people can surprise us, sometimes in a good way. Jackson." Nessa ran her fingers over the book cover. Something warm filled her chest, but it also scared her. She was falling in love with Jackson Vale. After all these years, after everything, she was falling for the boy who once made her cry in the school bathroom. And that was terrifying. For the next 2 days, Nessa couldn't stop thinking about everything. She remembered Sandra's warning. By Thursday, she made up her mind. She called the cleaning company. "Can you take me off the Vale job?" she asked. "Are you sure?" Sandra asked. "He asked for you specially." "I'm sure," Nessa said. "It's for the best." When Raina came home from school that day, Nessa got ready to tell her the news. "I'm not cleaning Mr. Vale's house anymore," she said, as Raina dropped her backpack. "Why?" Raina looked shocked. "Nothing happened," Nessa said. "It's just people are talking. It's not good for business." "So you're just going to stop because of what people say?" Raina asked, upset. "After everything he did for us?" "That's part of the problem," Nessa said. "We can't keep taking stuff from him. It's not right." "Not right?" Raina's eyes were flashing. "He's the only one who ever made me feel like I could do something big with my life, like I wasn't just some kid from the wrong side of town." "I believe in you," Nessa said, feeling hurt. "It's not the same." Raina shouted, "You have to believe in me. You're my aunt. He doesn't have to, but he does. And he likes you," she added quickly. "I've seen the way he looks at you when you're not watching, and you like him too. You're just too scared to say it." "It's not that simple," Nessa said. "People like us don't end up with people like him." "Maybe we could," Raina said more softly, "if you just gave it a chance." But Nessa had made up her mind. She needed to keep Raina safe and protect her own heart too. The job was given to someone else. Nessa kept busy with other work, trying not to think about the big house on memory lane or the man who lived there. A whole week passed. Jackson called twice, but Nessa didn't answer. He left messages. He asked if he had done something wrong. He asked if she was okay, but she couldn't bring herself to call back. On Saturday afternoon, Nessa was hanging laundry in the backyard when Raina came running out. "He's here," Raina said, her face red and excited. "Jackson's here." Nessa's heart jumped. "What, now?" "He's on the front porch," Raina said, "and he's holding a folder or something." Nessa quickly fixed her hair. She looked down at her old jeans and t-shirt. Then she walked through the house and opened the front door. Jackson stood there. He didn't look like the rich man from the dinner. He wore jeans and a simple sweater. His hair was a bit messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. "Nessa, you're okay," he said with relief. "I was worried when you didn't answer." "I've just been busy," she said, not looking at him. "Too busy to answer the phone? Too busy to come clean the house?" he asked. He sounded hurt. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," Nessa said. "It's not you. It's everything. This whole thing, it's not right." "What do you mean?" Jackson asked. Nessa waved her hand between them. "You live in a mansion with fancy cars. I clean houses. We're from two different worlds." "Is this about money?" Jackson asked, surprised. "I thought you knew me better than that." "It's not just the money," Nessa said. "It's what the money stands for. You had chances I didn't. You live a life I can't even imagine." "Then let me show you," Jackson said gently. "Let me show you that none of that matters, not when it comes to how I feel about you." His words floated in the air. It was the first time he had really said how he felt. Nessa's heart beat fast, but she tried to stay strong. "People are already talking," she said. "My boss warned me. I have a business to protect. I have Raina to think about." "That's partly why I'm here," he said, holding up the folder. "I found something I want to show you." Inside the folder was an old paper, her high school story, the original one with her teacher's comments. "I kept this," Jackson said softly. "All these years. Why?" Nessa asked. Jackson stepped closer. His voice was quiet and serious. "Because even back then, I knew there was something special about you, something real in a world that didn't feel real to me." He took another step, closer now. "The story was about a girl who wanted to be invisible, because being seen always hurt," he said. "I saw you, Nessa. I just didn't know how to be the person who deserved you." Nessa looked into his eyes. They were kind and honest. The world around her felt quiet and still. From behind her, Raina's voice said, "Is that the guy who gave me the comics?" Nessa turned. Raina stood there watching, her eyes full of hope. And in that moment, something inside Nessa broke free. All her fears and reasons for saying no didn't feel as strong anymore. Maybe, just maybe, some stories do have surprising endings. "Would you like to come in?" Nessa asked, her voice soft. "I was about to make tea." Jackson smiled, happy and relieved. "I'd love to." Raina led him to the living room, bouncing with joy. "I've been using that coding software you gave me," she told him. "I'm building a website for my science club." While Raina showed him her work, Nessa went to the kitchen to make tea. She needed a moment to breathe. From the kitchen, she could hear Raina talking and Jackson asking kind questions. They sounded so comfortable together, like they had known each other for a long time. When she came back, Jackson sat on the couch looking at ease. He took the tea she handed him. "Earl Grey," he said, smiling. "You remembered." "Hard to forget when someone remembers how you take your tea after 20 years, Nessa said, sitting down. For a moment, no one spoke. Just the sound of Raina typing. Then Jackson cleared his throat. "Nessa, I get why you stopped coming," he said, "but I wish you had talked to me first." "It was complicated," Nessa said. "People were talking. My boss said cleaners should stay professional." "Was that the only reason?" he asked gently. Nessa paused, then she shook her head. "No," she said. "I was scared." "Of what?" Jackson asked. Of you, of this, she said, waving between them. Whatever this is, it doesn't make sense. We're from different worlds. Maybe that's why it works, Jackson said, because we see each other more clearly than people from the same world. Raina shut her laptop. I'm going to Jenna's to work on our science project, she said, grabbing her bag. You two should talk. Before Nessa could stop her, she was out the door. Smart kid, Jackson said, smiling. Too smart sometimes, Nessa agreed. She looked at him. Jackson, what are we doing here? Really? He put down his tea. His face turned serious. I'm trying to fix a mistake I made 20 years ago, he said. Back when I was too young and silly to know what I had. We were kids, Nessa said. You couldn't have known. I did know, Jackson said, stopping Nessa gently. I think I always knew how special you were. That's why I kept your story for all these years. That's why I circled your picture in every school yearbook. Nessa's face turned warm. She remembered those books with her face circled in them. The truth is, Jackson continued, I thought about you many times, more than I should say. I always wondered where you were, if you were happy, and if you ever finished the book you said you wanted to write. I never did, Nessa said sadly. Life got too busy. It's not too late, Jackson said softly. You're still the same smart and talented girl. Nessa shook her head. I'm not the same, and neither are you. Maybe that's a good thing, Jackson said. Maybe we needed to grow up and go through everything to be ready for each other now. His voice gave Nessa a warm feeling, but she was still a little scared. People will talk, she said. They already are. Let them talk, Jackson said with a small shrug. I've spent too many years worrying about what people think. It's really tiring. That's easy for you to say, Nessa replied. You won't be the one people judge. They'll say I'm only with you because you're rich. Jackson's face changed. He looked hurt. Is that what you think? That you're just going after me for my money? No, of course not, Nessa said quickly. But people will say that. Since when does Celeste Warren care what people say? Jackson asked with a little grin. The girl I remember stood up to the whole class when they said The Great Gatsby was just a love story, Nessa laughed. Mr. Sienna almost had a heart attack when I said it was about the American dream. You were right, Jackson said. You usually were. They looked at each other. And in that moment, all the years and all the hard things they had gone through seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them again, Jackson and Nessa. I missed you, Jackson said softly, even when I didn't know why, even when I had no right to. Before Nessa could answer, Jackson's phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. I'm sorry. It's my assistant. Something's wrong with one of our computer servers. I have to take this. Jackson stepped outside to answer the call. Nessa sat there thinking. Part of her wanted to believe everything he had said. She wanted to believe this was real. But another part of her, the careful part that had raised Raina and worked hard for so long, reminded her that happy endings don't always happen in real life. When Jackson came back, he looked sorry. I have to go to the office, he said. It's important. Of course, Nessa said, walking with him to the door. I understand. At the door, Jackson turned to her. Nessa, I don't want to leave things like this. Can I see you tomorrow? Maybe dinner? Just the two of us? Nessa waited a second, then nodded. Okay, dinner tomorrow. Jackson's smile was big and full of hope. I'll pick you up at 7, unless you'd rather meet there? 7 is fine, Nessa said. I'll be ready. After he left, Nessa sat alone. She looked at her old story again. Her teacher, Mr. Sienna, had written notes in the margins. One said, You have a real gift, Celeste. She had forgotten that feeling, being proud of something she made. Somewhere between taking care of her sick sister, raising Raina, and working hard to survive, she had forgotten that part of herself. An hour later, Raina came home. She found Nessa at the kitchen table, typing on the laptop Jackson had given her. What are you doing? Raina asked. Writing, Nessa answered. Just seeing if I still can. Raina smiled big. About time, she said, hugging her aunt. So did you and Jackson make up? We're having dinner tomorrow, Nessa said. Just dinner. Don't get too excited. But Raina was already jumping with joy. What are you going to wear? Can I do your hair? This is so romantic. Even though Nessa tried to stay calm, she felt excited too. By 7 o'clock the next evening, she was wearing her nicest dress, a red one Raina said made her look beautiful. Her hair was soft and wavy. You look beautiful, Raina said, stepping back. Jackson won't know what hit him. When the doorbell rang, Nessa's heart beat fast. Raina gave her a quick hug and ran to her room to give them space. Jackson stood on the porch holding wild flowers. He wore a sport coat and jeans, nice but not too fancy. You look amazing, he said, his eyes warm. These are for you. Nessa smiled and took the flowers. Thank you. They're beautiful. I remembered you once said you liked wildflowers more than roses, Jackson said. You said they were more honest. That small memory made Nessa's heart feel full. I'll just put these in water, she said, her voice a little shaky. As they drove, Nessa noticed they weren't heading downtown to the fancy restaurants. Where are we going? She asked. It's a surprise, Jackson smiled. Trust me. That question, trust me, felt bigger than just dinner. Nessa nodded. I'm trying. After 20 minutes, they arrived at a small Italian restaurant on a quiet street. It wasn't fancy, just a cozy place with checkered tablecloths and candles in bottles. I found this place when I moved back, Jackson said. Marco, the owner, makes pasta like my grandma did. Marco, an older man, greeted them happily and hugged Jackson. Your usual spot, Mr. Jackson, he said with a wink. Very private, very romantic. As they sat down, Nessa looked around. This isn't what I expected. What did you expect? Jackson laughed. A fancy place downtown with tiny food on big plates? I eat enough of that at business meetings. I guess I'm still figuring out who you are, Nessa said. The boy you knew in school, the rich guy in magazines, or the man who can't fix a leaky faucet. Jackson joked. They're all me, he said, just different parts. The night went on with easy talk. They shared stories about books, dreams, and funny times. Jackson told her how he slept on friends' couches while starting his company. Nessa talked about raising Raina and the hard days they faced. I admire you so much, Jackson said while they shared dessert. You've done so much for Raina. You're amazing. I just did what anyone would do, Nessa said shyly. No, Jackson said. Not everyone would give up their dreams to raise someone else's child. Not everyone would work as hard as you have. His kind words made her happy, but also made her remember how different their lives were. And yet here we are, she said, me cleaning houses while you run a tech empire. Jackson reached for her hand. When I look at you, I see someone who chose love over everything else. That's more important than any company I could build. Their eyes met again. Something opened in Nessa's heart. After dinner, Jackson didn't drive straight home. He took her to a small park that looked over the city. I come here to think, he said. It helps me see the big picture. Why did you come back here, Jackson? Nessa asked. You could live anywhere. Why come back to this little town? Jackson was quiet for a moment. Unfinished business, he said. I left too many things unsaid. Is that what I am? Nessa asked before she could stop herself. Unfinished business? Jackson stopped walking and looked at her. No, he said firmly. You're not business. You're not something to be finished. He looked unsure. You're the road I didn't take, the choice I was too young to make. His voice was soft and honest. Let me finish, he said. I built this whole life, the company, the house, trying to prove something, but none of it matters if I can't share it with someone real. He stepped closer. I think I've been looking for you for 20 years, he said. I just didn't know it until you showed up at my door with a bottle of window cleaner. Nessa laughed. That's quite a line, Callan. Jackson grinned. Too much? Maybe a little, she said, still smiling. They kept walking, and their hands found each other. It felt natural. I've started writing again, Nessa said. Not a lot, but it feels good. That's wonderful, Jackson said. What are you working on? Nothing yet, Just trying to feel it again, she said. Reading my old story reminded me that I had something to say. You still do, Jackson said. You always have. On the drive back, they didn't need to talk much. The silence felt peaceful. At her door, Nessa didn't want the night to end. Would you like to come in for coffee? She asked. Raina's probably pretending not to wait up. Jackson smiled. I'd love that. Inside the house, they found Raina sitting on the couch in her pajamas. She was trying to act calm, like she hadn't been waiting by the window for them to come back. Oh, hi, Raina said, pretending to be innocent. How was dinner? It was nice, Nessa said, smiling at Jackson. I'm going to make some coffee, she added, walking to the kitchen. I finished my homework a long time ago, Raina told her, then turned to Jackson. So, did you guys have a good time? Did you talk about important stuff? Are you going to see each other again? Raina, Nessa called from the kitchen. Boundaries, remember? But Jackson just laughed and answered, Yes, and I hope so, if your aunt still wants to see me. She likes you, Raina whispered loudly. She was nervous all day about your date. I can hear you, Nessa called back, coming in with coffee mugs, and I'm rethinking your college fund. They all laughed and talked for a long time. It was way past Raina's bedtime when she finally went to sleep, but only after Jackson promised to look at her coding project the next time he came over. When Nessa walked Jackson to the door, she smiled and said, Thank you for tonight. I had a wonderful time. So did I, Jackson said. He waited for a second, then asked, Would you think about working at my house again? But not as my cleaning lady, he added quickly. The place is a mess without you. But that's not the real reason. I just miss seeing you. Nessa thought about it. What would Sandra, my boss, say? Tell her I'm hiring you directly as a household manager, Jackson suggested. It's not a lie. The house really needs you. And this way we can spend more time together without the town gossip getting too crazy. It was a smart idea, a way to mix both their lives without causing too much noise. Nessa nodded. Okay, she said, but I'll choose my own hours, and no special treatment. I'm still there to work. Agreed, Jackson said with a smile, though I might ask you to have lunch with me sometimes. I could allow that, Nessa said with a little smile. Then Jackson leaned in to kiss her goodnight. It was a soft and gentle kiss, one that made Nessa feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope for love, for family, for a future she had stopped dreaming about. In the next few weeks, they found a new rhythm. Nessa worked 3 days a week at Jackson's big house, taking care of the rooms and organizing everything. Sometimes they sat together quietly, Jackson on his laptop, Nessa cleaning or fixing something. Other times they talked for hours, catching up on the 20 years they had missed. Raina visited the big house often, especially after Jackson set up a coding room just for her. It had cool equipment and shiny new computers. For future interns, Jackson said when Nessa raised an eyebrow at the cost. People in town still talked, of course. But as summer changed to fall, their gossip turned softer. They were no longer judging Nessa and Jackson. They were just curious. Everyone started calling them the unlikely pair, the tech millionaire and the woman who used to clean his house. It's like a movie, Sandra told Nessa one day at the grocery store. The kind where the rich guy falls in love with the ordinary girl and they all live happily ever after. Life isn't a movie, Sandra, Nessa said with a smile. It's more complicated. And it was. There were awkward moments. Some of Jackson's rich friends looked at Nessa like she didn't belong. Sometimes Nessa felt unsure of herself and wondered if she could really be part of Jackson's world. But for every hard moment, there were many good ones. Jackson helped Raina with her coding competition. Nessa read her writing to Jackson at night while they sat in the sunroom. Sometimes the three of them had pizza and watched movies in Jackson's home theater. One cool October evening, almost 1 year after Nessa had first knocked on Jackson's door with her cleaning supplies, they sat together on the porch watching the golden sunset. I have something to show you, Jackson said, taking her hand and leading her to his office. On his desk was a big stack of papers. Nessa's name was on the cover. I had it printed, he said, watching her carefully. Your novel. I thought you might want to see it as a real book. Nessa touched the pages softly. Her eyes felt warm. All those early mornings and late nights, all her hard work was right there in front of her. It's just a first draft, she said. It probably needs a lot of work. It's brilliant, Jackson said, and I'm not just saying that because I'm hopelessly in love with the author. His words hung in the air. It wasn't the first time he had said he loved her, but it still made Nessa's heart skip. Hopelessly, huh? She said, smiling and stepping into his arms. Completely, Jackson said. He kissed her gently. Which is why I've been thinking about something. He led her to the window and pointed to the big yard outside. This house is too big for one person, he said. It always has been, but maybe it's just right for three. Nessa's eyes widened. She knew what he meant. Jackson, are you asking us to move in? I'm asking us to make a home together, he said, here or somewhere else. I just want to wake up with you every morning, help Raina with her homework, listen to you read your new stories. I want a real life with you, Nessa. Nessa looked out at the beautiful yard. This house used to make her feel small, but now it felt like a place where something beautiful could grow. She looked at Jackson. What will people say? She asked. But this time her voice didn't sound worried. Jackson smiled and brushed her hair behind her ear. They'll say that Jackson Vale finally did something right, that he was smart enough to see the best thing that ever happened to him, even if it took him 20 years to figure it out. Nessa thought about everything, the long road that brought them here, all the missed chances, and the years they had spent apart. Now, they were finally ready to be together. We'll need a room for Raina's coding stuff, she said, and a quiet place where I can write. Jackson's face lit up. Is that a yes? It's a yes, Nessa said. Jackson lifted her into a happy hug. Some stories really do get a second chance. As they stood in the golden light of the sunset, Nessa thought of the girl she used to be, the one who tried to stay invisible because being noticed hurt too much. That girl never could have dreamed of this happy ending, but maybe Jackson had seen her back then, truly seen her. Maybe they both needed all these years to grow, and maybe, just maybe, this love had been waiting for them all along. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.